Very ready.
Awesome. Well, I just want to say welcome everyone to Questions, So Many Questions, Be Curious, Not Judgmental, presented by Kevin Reyes. Please note we'll be providing the slides and the recording of this session to everyone in the Maine Now conference website after the conference is concluded. In today's session, please add any questions you have to the chat, and I'll be collecting questions and moderating any Q&A. And I know Kevin's going to be calling out for that throughout the session as well. You can also message me directly if you have any questions and you want to remain anonymous. Just so you know, closed captioning is available for today's session. You just need to click on the CC box at the bottom of the screen to allow for subtitles. And then throughout the event, chat, I'll be paying attention to chat, make sure you have everything you need, and we're kind of moving along. And with that, I'm really happy to introduce our presenter, and who is someone I feel so very lucky to call my colleague and my friend. I'm sure you've read Kevin's bio, so I'm not going to just reread his bio for you on this. But just let me say that Kevin is the Talent Development Manager at UC Merced and one of my favorite colleagues in the system. I've had the pleasure of knowing Kevin and working with him since he returned to the UC in 2019. And he's always a voice of innovation, collaboration, and growth in our system-wide meetings. You are in for a real treat today. I can just feel the energy already. Kevin, my brother from another mother, I love you, my friend, and I'm gonna let you take it away right now.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you very much. I am very pleased to be here. I echo the sentiments and the graciousness that Angela said back at her, because she was coordinating this. And I saw it, I was like, oh, I'm so excited. I had this thing that I wanted to share with everyone. This thing's like a great opportunity to do it. And Angela is a point of inspiration for me. So I'm really glad to be able to give back with the Now conference. So thank you all for being here. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. We're just gonna jump into it. So everyone, are you seeing my first slide?
Looks great.
If not, please let me know. Okay, awesome. Then I do have my chat window up. I do not have my visual, so I'm trying to navigate those multiple screens, but I will be looking at the chat as well. So when things come in, I will be seeing that. One of the things I want to say is, I did try to evoke a little bit of thoughts with my description. Anyone notice anything about my description for this workshop specifically, other than the name and dropping, things about Ted Lasso and Uncle Walt? Go ahead and throw that in the chat if you notice something about the description. Yes, thank you very much, Cassandra. Describe with questions, right? All questions. And it's amazing that I think sometimes we forget how much we could do with questions and with that inquisitive mindset and that curious focus. So that's what we're really going to talk about today. And what we're going to do is go through some specific approaches and talk about how can we use that mindset to help our work, to help ourselves, to help our colleagues. We'll discuss things about check-ins and can they really be as easy as I'm going to propose that they are. We'll talk about open-ended questions. Yeah, I'm asking for a friend. And we will get to a point where hopefully we'll understand how Uncle Walt, Ted Lasso, and Cats Worldwide have definitely gotten it right and probably have an understanding of why they have 9 lives. So before I jump in, one of the things I want to talk about, just kind of like we do traditionally in providing any kind of resource to you all, is our objectives. Now, the reason I'm putting this here is because for me, yeah, I can have some great slides. You can walk away, wow, that was fun, that was exciting. But I'm a failure if you don't walk away going, wow, you know what, I got one thing or 2 things or whatever I can take away from here. So try to identify some of these that you can utilize and things that hopefully you will take away. So I'm hopeful that our objectives are not just my objectives, but that you will discover some options to use curiosity and inquisitive mindset questioning for working with your campus partners, with your teams, with your division, that you'll be able to maybe pull a set of driving questions, and I'm not saying you have to use the ones I'm putting out there, but others that can drive your check-in process, that you'll be able to explore the world of open-ended questions for problem solving, data gathering, development, and coaching. And we'll look at that. And then, like I said, I'll introduce you to a few friends to kind of help understand why they may have gotten it right. Sound good? If so, I can't see your pictures. I'd love to see thumbs up, but just give me a yeah, a yes, a positive, a plus, whatever in the chat to let me know that you're tracking with me here. Sound good?
And lots of thumbs up emojis and celebration emojis, Kevin. You're doing good.
Awesome. So one of the things I want to point out is, the driving piece behind this is that, we work with people, right? I mean, I love the fact that UC Berkeley doesn't have an HR. I think that's great, because we're really the people. And that's what we're focusing on. And people have needs. And you have needs in this workshop as well, right? There's those personal needs. The pieces that say to you, this is what I am hoping that I will, as a person, be given, right? That you'll understand me, that you'll value me, that you will respect me, that you'll trust me, right? Some of the stuff that we talked about in the workshop the concurrent session I was in earlier about imposter syndrome, right? That value proposition, the understood and feeling that, yeah, people know that they can come to you because you have value and expertise, right? So those are some of the needs that I want to make sure you're getting met today through this, as well as then the practical needs, because, we all hear a workshop that's next opportunity at work. So there's work, right? The work that has to happen, the objectives you want to accomplish. Now, that doesn't have to just be a task. It could also be your career path, your career trajectory. And so that's really what I want to try to help provide some resources for, to help fill those human needs so that you're going to be heard, be understood, and also move yourself towards those practical objectives that you want to move forward on. Okay? Sound good? All right. I'm going to keep driving because I have a friend I want you to meet. And this friend is a gentleman by the name of Ted Lasso. No, that's not Jason Sudeikis, that you think it is. Ted Lasso is an American football coach, and I say that for a reason, because he is an American football coach who's had decent success, but he's brought to Britain to become a football coach, which for some of us in the US, we'd say soccer. But he's brought there, and in that, he is not necessarily brought there to be a great coach. He's actually brought there to kind of sabotage the team, because the team has gone through a leadership change. The husband and wife who owned the team divorced. The wife got the team as an ownership part to her divorce settlement. She wants to destroy the team because it is the heart and soul of her ex-husband. And so Ted is thrown into a situation of uncertainty, change, conflict, cultural confusion, right? Familial stress, differing opinions, power struggles, team cohesion challenges. Does this sound familiar to anyone? Right? Am I describing your day-to-day work or life or just our existence? Huh? All right. So in this scene that I'm about to share with you, Ted is confronted by the former owner, now a minor partner, who wants to get back into the day-to-day of the team. And so we're just going to look at what happens here. Ready?
So Rupert, y'all take your darts over here pretty seriously, huh? This and what's the billiard game y'all do that sounds like a brand of cookies? Snooker? That's it. That's the one. Yeah, boy, I'd love to curl up on a couch under a weighted blanket, watch You've Got Mail, and devour a box of Snookers. See what we got here. Hey, there it is.
Do you like darts, Ted?
Oh, they're okay. I'm more of a cornhole man myself. Yeah. Oh.
Huh. How about a game? I mean, we could, maybe wager, say, £10,000?
Well, as my doctor told me when I got addicted to fettuccine Alfredo, that's a little rich for my blood. How about this? If you win, I'll let you pick the starting lineup of the last 2 games of the season. But if I win, you can't go anywhere near the owner's box, at least not while Rebecca's still in charge.
Ted, what the hell are you doing?
Well, I believe some folks call it white knighting, but I don't know. I'm just following my gut here. It's okay. No. What do you think?
You're on.
Okay.
Double in, double out.
Whatever you say, Rupert Dukes. Yeah. Just let me know if I'm winning or losing, all right?
Oh, I forgot I had these on me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait a second. I forgot I'm left-handed. Oh, it's gonna be a hoot.
180! William Rupert, get in!
Shall I be giving you the lineup card now, Ted? I shall be putting Obasanya back on defense where he belongs.
That's exactly what I said, didn't I?
No, it's not all Ted's fault. My ex-wife's the one who brought the hillbilly to our shores. I know she's always been a bit randy, but I never thought she would for an entire team.
Hey! Better manners when I'm holding a dart. Please. Mate, what do I need to win?
2 triple 20s and a bullseye.
Good luck.
You know, Rupert, guys have underestimated me my entire life. And for years, I never understood why. It used to really bother me. But then one day, I was driving my little boy to school, and I saw this quote by Walt Whitman. It was painted on the wall there. It said, "Be curious, not judgmental." I like that. So I get back in my car, and I'm driving to work, and all of a sudden, it hits me. All them fellas that used to belittle me, not a single one of them were curious. You know, they thought they had everything all figured out, and so they judged everything, and they judged everyone. And I realized that they're underestimating me. Who I was had nothing to do with it. Because if they were curious, they would ask questions. You know? Questions like, have you played a lot of darts, Ted? Which I would have answered, yes, sir. Every Sunday afternoon at a sports bar with my father from age 10 till I was 16 when he passed away. Barbecue sauce. Good game, Ruben.
Come on, let's go.
You are a very lovely consolation prize. Rebecca, Ted, enjoy your evening.
Mate, as always.
Felt good.
That was fun, yeah. Only one thing left to do now.
What's that? Do I have to? Drinks are on me!
All right. So, what y'all think? Did you like Ted? What'd you think? If you haven't ever seen it before, I will tell you right now, yes, Ted is the best, right? And this show, it's on Apple Plus. I will tell you right now, if you're looking, it's not about soccer. It's not about football. It's not about people. It is truly about leadership and human relationships. And it's really, really a great show. I'll share a link later for you with some additional resources around TED and how you might look into them. But one of the things you can do is utilize that questioning attitude, right? That curiosity that TED was alluding to for a couple of different ways or a couple of different reasons. One of which is I talked about, like, how can we use it in our day-to-day work? So what I'm going to introduce you to is called the pre-mortem. And if you've not yet heard of Gary Klein, don't worry. We're going to explore one of his tools and what I mean by the pre-mortem. So if you've heard of it, awesome. If you haven't, we're gonna get into it, and we'll get a quick primer in just a moment. So again, how do we use it, right? How do we use curiosity and an inquisitive mindset in our daily interactions with our campus partners, with our customers, internal, external, right? And we'll look at, so why should we ask data mining questions? What more should I know? The pre-mortem is a place where we assume failure. And I think a lot of us are afraid of that, but it's actually a super valuable tool. And if we assume failure, we can learn a lot from it. And then we also then get a mind or an eye towards what possible up and downstream impacts are there in the work that we're doing, in the project, the initiative, et cetera, and how we can account for those potentially. Sound good? Okay, so a pre-mortem is a tool where you look into the future And you want to make that future something substantive, right? You're not talking about 2 weeks into the beginning of a project. You're talking anywhere from like 6 months to 2 years, depending or relative to the timing and the length of the project. And you're going to then take that time frame and say, the project failed. It failed for whatever reason. And in looking at it, you're then going to ask, what were the reasons for it failure, right? And no reason is too small. It could be budgetary reasons. It could be turnover, loss of people, pandemic, whatever. I had an employee of mine whose computer fried. It actually caught on fire, had to go back and start over. And that, was project failure because it didn't meet the timeline. So there's lots of things that we can look to. And then what you're going to do is debrief those responses by doing a simple organizational activity. And you'll prioritize them by identifying the top 5 with the largest risk. Okay. What you will then do with that is you will then, as a group, a unit, whoever you're working with, you'll identify some brainstormed risk mitigations, things that you can do action-wise to prevent that failure, or interventions that you could implement to prevent that failure. And then follow up on those concerns. Reach out to the group that you're like, oh, we haven't, here's one Angela I think is going to find very applicable. We haven't talked to our training department and asked them for training, but we're supposed to launch this new tool next week. Right? So reach out ahead of time and use that pre-mortem to help identify it, right? And that sounds like a lot to do. But again, what is the theme of our discussion today? Questions, right? So really what you're doing is you're creating just a simple grid of 3 elements: the failure, cause, or reason, the level of concern, and the action steps for mitigation. But what you're doing more simplistically is you're answering 3 questions. And I kind of take this approach from what I used to teach. How many of you have ever been told in a composition or writing class, you need a better, more comprehensive introduction? Anyone ever heard that in their educational background? You can throw some yeses, thumbs up, that kind of thing. And did that help you? Probably not, because we're told an introduction has to have a strong organizational statement. It has to have a topical statement that helps us understand what you're writing about, and a thesis statement. The reality is it's much simpler than that. Really what you have to do is tell the reader, what are you talking about? How are you going to do it? And what are you saying about it? So very similarly with the pre-mortem, what you can do is just answer simple questions. What could have led to this happening? Okay. Why did it not work? How much risk does it present? It's not that big a risk. It's 1. We don't have to really address it, right? And then the third question is, what could we do to prevent this approach, or approach the situation differently? So I know I just buzzed through that, and it probably seems way too easy. So what I want to do is give you an opportunity to dig in and ask a few questions, right? So go ahead on that, throw in questions. So are you using a pre-mortem, suggesting we use a pre-mortem tool before project kicks off to identify? Yes, Allison, spot on. Before you even, like in your pre-planning, in your launch, you can do your pre-mortem before you even start getting out of the gate, start assigning tasks to various divisions and et cetera. It's a great pre-planning tool for helping identify a risk. And you can do it also in things like, let's say you're going to shift priorities in your team. What are the risks? How well is that going to work? You can do it with, right now, we're all looking at things like return to on-site work planning. We could do it there as well, right? So there's any number of uses for this. So Allison, you're spot on there when you ask that. Other questions? And feel free to unmute yourself too. And Angela can then call on you, because again, like I said, I can't see folks if they have their hand raised. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get that window at my visual. Any other questions? If not, I'll charge ahead. Okay. what kinds of projects? Do certain projects lend themselves to this method? Yeah, Dana, realistically, you can do it with small projects, medium-sized, large projects, right? Huge initiatives. It's kind of a standard approach. Usually we'll talk about risk assessment, but usually what we do is we go, ooh, what are the risks? And we're assuming that we're going to be successful. And so sometimes we're blinded by the fear of failure. Whereas if we look at like scientific method, I mean, we're research institutions, right? The purpose is to eliminate the variables that are going to cause failure. So same kind of thing. So you can just look in a small project, what's going to cause this to not work? We're not going to have the support from the external vendor that we thought we were. They're not going to provide for us the training materials we thought we were going to get. We have to assume that we're going to have, it's a 2-year project, we're going to have a certain percentage of the team that's going to turn over. They're going to move to another role, they're going to move to another organization, right? So those kinds of things. So you can create then some safety nets with backfilling, cross-training, those kinds of things. Great question. Other questions on it? All right. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and continue because, we talked a little bit about being questioning, being inquisitive. But one thing we haven't looked at is how could we maybe do that in other areas? One of the other areas we can do is we're getting feedback and risk assessment of projects. Couldn't we do the same thing with people? Right? Couldn't we take some time to identify what the challenges are for them, how we can help them, how they're feeling in their role, and then develop that into coaching and check-ins? And I know that at UCB and other campuses around the UC system, we're moving away from these, this kind of thing, right? This is what I think we're most used to. It's like, oh, sorry, it's been 11 months. I really haven't had a chance. So, you know what? I'll just call you out in front of a group about what you're not doing or what you're doing, right? And that's not really successful. We know we've been focusing more overtly on check-ins, more regular check-ins. At one time a year is not applicable. So why should we wait for some calendar deadline that's arbitrary? I will say right now, this is one of the things that I thought was really great is there's the Getting Started with Achieve Together video that some of you may have seen, some of you may not. There's a great line in there that states, anyone can take charge of their development. And we can do that via check-ins. We can do that via questions, right? And it doesn't have to be driven by a supervisor. You can request a check-in. And so I'll provide now for you a very, hopefully, simple, because Angela, this may look familiar. We're trying to make sure that we provide opportunities to cut down this, really poor representation about performance goals and feedback and performance appraisals and management, right? It's not something that has been successful. So one way we can do that is instead of focusing just on, the last period, a couple months, or doing it once in a while, or supervisors avoiding having those difficult adult conversations, right? And, oh, the only time we're going to do this once a year, is we can actually start a real simple 4-question check-in, right? So what that is a place for you to use 4 simple questions to measure or to look at engagement, progress, goal setting, and then mentorship or development, right? And you can hit all 4 of those biggies with just 4 simple questions. Anyone interested in finding out what they are? Not seeing any yeses in the chat. Angela, getting any thumbs up?
Yeah, I got some fun thumbs up and, and chat boxes and people unmuting themselves.
Thank you. All right, good. I like to hear that. I like to keep you involved. I'm sorry I can't see you all, but it's a basic set of 4 questions, and really what they are is they have been developed. I didn't build these out. I've kind of converted it to my usage and adapted it, and they're developed to get to those core issues that we talked about before. And you really can then create an air of consistency and comfort and trust through that. And you can then connect this to things like vision, task, and relationship. And why would I say that? Because for me, I like to share a model that leadership is vision plus task plus relationship. You have to balance all of those. Sometimes you're focused on tasks, sometimes you're focused on where you're going, sometimes it's the relationship building. But if you're losing out on any of those, you're going to be missing a place that's really important. And oftentimes then that's where the bigger issue of engagement and turnover and people dissatisfaction with their role can happen. So let's get into it. But before I do, you have to know that it's key to be present during this, because whatever questions you ask aren't going to work really well if you're asking a question like this. So how are you doing today? Right? So put those things away. Listen and be present because, well, I'll let him share.
It's just, there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
Yeah, see, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See,
out.
you're not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just... Sometimes it's like there's this achy... I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
Yeah, that sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on. Ow. If you would just...
Don't...
Try to see things my way.
So, moral of the story, make sure you're present in this conversation, right? That's really key to moving forward, because otherwise the questions that I provide aren't going to help, right? Those questions, though, like I said, are about engagement. So how are you feeling about your role? Seems like a simple question, right? But the reality is it's not. It's a big place for investigating and digging into someone's satisfaction, their engagement level, right? How they're feeling about their career trajectory, how they're feeling about their relationship with you as an individual, a peer, a leader, however that is, right? So that's the base question. How are you feeling? And if someone says, oh, good, what do you think you should do at that point? And I have my video panel again, so if anyone has a hand up, they're free to throw it out there. You dig in. Okay, so one of the things that happens, especially right now in our current pandemic situation, is a lot of times you ask people, how are you doing? And they're like, oh, I'm okay, fine. Do you think that's accurate? No, exactly. You're spot on. It's not. So we have to dig in. Say, really? So how are, how are you feeling? Fine. What's going on? Right? So, okay, are you feeling satisfied? How are you feeling satisfied? Is there anything that's not resonating with you? Right? So an opportunity to dig in a little bit more there. The next one is progress. So what have you accomplished since the last time we met? It's a way to say, okay, since last time we talked, we had a set of goals and objectives that were on your radar. What have you accomplished? Now, this isn't a place necessarily to slap people's hand. It's just a check-in. And how are things going? Because then you can identify, are there challenges or other things that have bubbled up, other priorities that have taken more focus and time away from the other things that were there. And then it sets the stage for you to go into a goal-setting question where you ask them, what are you going to accomplish between now and the next time we check in or meet? So you're saying, okay, maybe reestablish, reassess, repurpose for monitoring what's been going on. What would be successful? Now, this is the one that I think is really important, because for us, It's a place where we can be a good peer, a good leader, and say, what obstacles or hurdles can I remove for you? What things can I help you? How can I help you be successful? Right? And that could be something as simple as, you know what, this Monday, Wednesday, and Friday coffee meeting that we're having, it's too much. It's only a half an hour, but like maybe we just need to have Monday to check in because there's just so much else going on, right? That kind of thing. Or you know what, I really feel like this timeline or this deadline or milestone that we've set is too soon, too early, too difficult to hit, right? So, and why do you think that we put this out there in this way? Well, one of the things we want to do is because in each of these sessions, and I meet with my team monthly, and we have one-on-one check-ins, and we go through and they know the questions, and we still sometimes can't get it all covered in an hour. Because what we're also doing is identifying the things that our employees are doing, how they're working, challenges that they're having, and having regular discussions and recognitions of accomplishments and appreciation. We get plenty of, quote, recognition with things like, you know, our annual reviews and this, that, the other, and service awards, and et cetera. That's not appreciation. Appreciation is like, I really am grateful for the focus that you took, or how you bubbled this up and made it part of your priority to get the work done, and did it in such a, you know, focused manner that attended to the details and made sure that our customers are feeling satisfied, right? The number one reason most people leave their jobs is because they don't feel appreciated. And that appreciation then turns into disengagement, frustration, and then we've lost them and they're ready to go, right? So again, this is one of the reasons why we like to do this, because asking about how you're feeling with your role gets to those questions about engagement, team, motivation, and then you can take that and dive in and say, hey, how can I make this better, right? Because that's really a problem if you're not making it better. Remember, we talked about before how important people have needs, those human needs. This is part of it, right? You're maintaining and enhancing some self-esteem. I mean, it gets to the point that we talked about earlier in one of the workshops I was in around imposter syndrome, right? Empathy. As many of us know, empathy is the biggest tool or behavior we can exhibit as coworkers, peers, and leaders. And that's, you know, why I shared the little "it's not about the nail" video, because you have to be present. It allows you to have a space to then ask for help or to encourage involvement. And you could say, I can get involved, I can help, right? It gives you a place to then share thoughts and rationale. It also creates support without removing responsibility. So it's not all on the leader, it's not all on the peer or whatever. It's responsibility and accountability are on both parts. And so the continual check-in of that starts building that piece where you're going to have to tell me what it is that you need. I can't be a mind reader. So if I'm not asking, I'm not going to find out. And if I ask and you don't tell me, now we have a big gap, right? So last piece on this is progress and mentorship or development, right? This saying very good progress doesn't help people. So you really want to look at what is being done. It gives you a chance to report on the status, to realign. You can do the pre-mortems, assessments, et cetera. But what's really important is it allows people to now set goals collaboratively. And why is that important? Because did you know that only 30% of employees are regularly involved in goal setting? Does that sound familiar to many of you? And you can do thumbs up and all that stuff. I have my video window now. How many of you, let's see, by show of yes or no, how many of you are actively involved in your own goal setting? Drop me a yes or a no in your either the chat window or in your reactions. I'm seeing a few green arrows up. Angela, yes. Bonnie, yes. Oh, Kelsey, no. Got another no from Max, a yes from Ka. Okay, right? And that's what I would expect, because most people aren't. But those who are involved in their own goal setting, do you know they're almost 4 times more likely to be engaged? That's kind of crazy, right? Half and half. Yeah, thanks, Julian. Half and half, right? Jennifer, kinda. Yeah, Kevin, I see that. Yes, however, not as frequent. Yeah. But look at the impact that it can have, right? Asking those questions, getting people involved, giving them a voice, much more engagement. And they're much more likely to stay with us, right? So again, what are you going to accomplish between now and the next time? There's short-term goals. There's some longer intermediate. It's workload management, timeline and milestone management, like reassess. This is something we know we're supposed to do, and you can do it in a simple way, right? With these simple questions. Now, the last piece I'm going to talk about with the 4 questions is the mentorship component, right? Angela knows I'm a Star Wars fan. So there's a great book out there if you're interested in it. It's like Leadership Lessons from the Dark Side. This is actually a page right out of that. Yeah. Find a mentor, right? You can identify someone, you can have a mentor. It could be a peer. It doesn't have to be your leader, someone who you can have that conversation with, and you can discuss those things, right? So you can look at how am I growing? What kinds of resources do I need? What kinds of support do I need? Development courses, those types of things. Okay. All right. So again, 4 questions. How are you feeling about your role? What have you accomplished since last time we met? What are you going to accomplish between now and the next time we meet? And what obstacles or hurdles can I remove for you? Sound simple enough? Okay. So what questions do you have of me regarding the 4-question check-in? All good?
I'll ask a question of you, Kevin.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. In your experience, have you found that you can weave these into just your standard one-on-ones, or do you like to set aside a time where you're saying, so, we do the Achieve Together conversations here at Berkeley 3 times a year, where we have a set of questions. And, we talk about, you can weave those into a one-on-one, but, maybe you want to do them all at once. How have you found these work best? One at a time, all 4 at once, a structured meeting just for this, weaving it here and there? What's your suggestion for us?
So, and I'm gonna kind of punt it back with the kind of thing. I personally use it in like 3 different ways. So 1, I use it with our regular monthly one-on-ones with my team. And what we do there is really focus on the 4 questions and their needs that are impactful to the work that they're doing in real time. So that's how I use it with that. I also will use it when having, like, if I'm doing any kind of like a coaching session or any kind of developmental, like career coaching or career guidance session. So using like the first question, how are you feeling about your role? I think that's a good toe in the water to try to see where that person is, if you will, right? To like, how are they coming to you about career advice or counseling or development courses because they're unsatisfied with where they're at, right? And you can kind of dig in a little bit there. The other questions I will use in project meetings too, like when we're doing a check-in. So, what have we accomplished since the last time we all got together? What are we going to do between now and then? And are there, it's kind of like the pre-mortem. Are there things I need to get out of your way to help you be successful? So I've used it in both ways. I've used it with one-on-ones. I've used it in group settings, and I'll kind of pick and choose the questions depending on what it is we're discussing. Does that help answer the question?
That's great. I love that thought about using it as a one-on-one tool, but also as a kind of a project management tool. If you're having a meeting with a task force, at the UC, we love our task force, using these very simple questions to start those meetings so that people can, just get in that space. What have we done? What do we need to do?
Right.
What's going to trip us up? Really powerful.
Yeah. Thank you. And Julian asked me a question here. What if you're on the, and I'm going to share this even though you sent it directly, because I think this is a really poignant question. What if you're on the receiving end of the questions, but the person who's asking, supervisor, whoever else, doesn't dig in and ask the deeper questions? And it feels more like kind of just, pro forma to them. Well, so that's the piece where you, like I said, you got to take control of your own development. The quote from the video earlier, where you can start then pushing back with some open-ended questions of yourself, of them. So to say, like, if they say, what have you accomplished between now and the last time we met? And you said, oh, well, I was able to move this project forward 10%. And then they don't ask anything else. You could say, oh, yeah, exactly, Dana. Great. Dana just helped everyone out there. You could say, you know what? I just want to be sure maybe it's me, that, is that meeting your expectations? Did you have a different thought for timing or for amount of, progress we want to see on this? I want to make sure we're on the same page. And by turning it to yourself, by saying, I'm curious, I want to know, you're not putting them on the spot. You're not calling them out for not digging in and asking those questions. You're just merely asking for clarification, but you're creating a space where you've actually kind of helped them dive in. Does that help, Julian? Okay, awesome, thank you. All right, so, really the reason I say this is because, like I said before, we don't want these kinds of situations where it's just all negative. It's just all once a year, like, oh, here's what you got to improve. Here's what you got to perform, right? We know that happens. And the reason I say that is because research has shown that the minute you start criticizing someone, even if you give it to them in a success sandwich, the brain constricts. People are immediately non-responsive and unreceptive, right? It's true. Like, people just, their brain constricts and they're no longer taking in information. And part of that is because as people, yeah, go ahead, use it, Dana. People, by and large, know what they're not doing well. They know where they're falling down. And so what you can do is, rather than criticize, by asking questions and not putting that judgment of like, look, I know you know better, why do you keep screwing up? Instead, asking a curious question, say, the last 2 years, you've been like highly performing. And I see that that's, kind of dropping off here. Is there anything that's causing you, workload, external pressures, et cetera? Am I missing that? Maybe I'm misperceiving it. How would you assess it, right? Having those conversations and asking versus just saying, well, what you're doing sucks, right? Or you've been performing craptacularly. That doesn't do anything to help people move forward. And what it does is it actually takes away the empathy that I talked about earlier and constricts the brain, and people they're shut off. Okay. All right. So I'm going to jump ahead because we got lots of good stuff. Push this out there. You've probably all seen it. This aligns really well with the 4-question check-in, right? The idea of coming back, hopefully see my arrow here, right? Monitoring, revisiting, and checking in with someone and adjusting. Look at that. We have adjust. It doesn't mean if you set a goal in January, it's got to be the same in November. You should have an opportunity to check in and adjust as needed. Right? So that's really what we're pushing for, because if you're not using questions, if you're not being curious, you're going to shut yourself off to a whole wealth of information. And instead, what happens is, instead of asking open-ended questions, what you're left with is a bunch of griping, right? Because, well, this doesn't work, and that's not good, and I don't like this, and what are you doing? And oh, I don't know. Right? That's naturally what happens. I'm sure, Angela, you probably give me like a huge thumbs up, because I'm sure you've heard this countless times, and I'm sure many of you have. Have you, any of you who've been out there, have you heard those kinds of refrains? Give me a thumbs up if you're like, yep, that's the kind of stuff I hear. This doesn't work, you knew it didn't work, da, 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 right? Yeah. So what can we do to help with that? Well, we can start shifting the way that we give feedback. And one of the ways we can do that is by being more specific. And so that's another tool that we're going to talk about now, is the idea of clear, generic versus specific, right? How many of you are familiar with Saving Private Ryan? I got my window up so thumbs will work. So this scene is from the movie Saving Private Ryan. And if you're not familiar with it, it's a squadron sent to go recover one soldier because all of his siblings have been killed in the war, and they don't want the entire family's lineage to be wiped out. Now, the officers, the Rangers, highly skilled Army Rangers, are kind of not happy about having to risk themselves to go save one person. And this is the interchange that occurs.
You want to explain the math of this to me? I mean, where's the sense of risking the lives of the 8 of us to save one guy?
20 degrees. Anybody want to answer that?
Riley, think about the poor bastard's mother.
Hey, Doc, I got a mother, all right? I mean, you got a mother, Sarge has got a mother. Even the captain's got a mother. Well, maybe not the captain, but the rest of us got mothers.
There's not a reason why there's but to do and die. Supposed to mean corporal, huh? We're all supposed to die, is that it?
Papa's talking about our duty as soldiers.
Yes, sir.
We all have orders and we have to follow them. That supersedes everything, including your mother's.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Even if you think the mission's FUBAR, sir?
Especially if you think the mission's FUBAR.
What's FUBAR? Oh, it's German. Yeah. Never heard of that. Sir, I have an opinion on this matter.
Well, by all means, share it with the squad.
Well, from my way of thinking, sir, this entire mission is a serious misallocation of valuable military resources.
Yeah, go on.
Well, it seems to me, sir, that God gave me a special gift, made me a fine instrument of warfare.
Driven, pay attention now. This is the way to gripe. Continue, Jackson.
Well, what I mean by that, sir, is you used to put me and this here sniper rifle anywhere up to and including 1 mile of Adolf Hitler with a clear line of sight, sir. Pack your bags, fellas. War's over. Amen.
Oh, that's brilliant, Bumpkin. Hey, so, Captain, what about you? I mean, you don't gripe at all?
I don't gripe to you, Ryben. I'm a captain. There's a chain of command. Gripes go up, not down. Always up. You gripe to me, I gripe to my superior officer, so on, so on, so on. I don't gripe to you. I don't gripe in front of you. You should know that as a ranger.
I'm sorry, sir, but let's say you weren't a captain, or maybe I was a major. What would you say then?
Well, in that case, I say this is an excellent mission, sir, with an extremely valuable objective, sir. Worthy of my best efforts, sir. Moreover, I feel heartfelt sorrow for the mother of Private James Ryan, and I'm willing to lay down my life and the lives of my men, especially you, Ryben, to ease her suffering.
He's good.
I love him.
All right. So, what did you notice about the interchange there? Someone pointed it out. One of the things out in the chat that was great. Gripes go up, not down. Yeah, that's a great piece to pull out of there. What else did you notice about the discussion that was going on in that interchange there? Anything specific with regards to our topic today? Questions? Lots of questions, exactly, Dana. There were a lot of questions there, and so one of the things I want to highlight is, yes, there was some griping that was occurring, but if you notice through the course of the questions, did the discussion move from like generic, like what's the sense in sending all of us to get this person, to more specific? Did you notice that trend? Right. He says, yeah, right, Susanna, there's good, like, what's the, well, think about the poor, guy's mother, right? The loss and the hardship, right? And then the questions about, well, what about you, Captain? What would you do? And if you noticed, one of the things that happened is they started moving from generic gripes to specific components. So when the sniper started advocating, what did he say? They said, hey, this is dumb. I could kill Hitler. No. Right? More facts were revealed. Yes, definitely. He started to say, well, I think this is a serious misallocation of resources. That's not, hey, this is stupid. That's, here's something we can act on. So really what we want to do is utilize the questions and the specificity, and we can do that through feedback. So I'm going to show you, this is called the STAR model. How many of you are familiar with this? Anyone familiar with the STAR model? You also may have heard it referred to as CAR. So there's STAR, which is situation, task, action, result. And then there's also CAR, which is context, action, result. Have you heard these models before? They're all kind of very similar depending on how they're framed. The biggest point of that is really that you want to make sure that there's specificity, right? So rather than just saying, hey, great job with that student advising today. Like I said earlier, great presentation, awesome. Does that do anything for us? How many of you would be like, oh, that made my day? Hey, great job, Maria. Way to go, Susanna. Leah, great job. I mean, if that grinds your gears, if it makes you go, yeah, well, I'm really appreciated, then awesome. But most of us aren't okay with the generic attaboys, the pat on the back, right? We would like specifics. We would like to know what really was done. So that more impactful feedback could be like, you know, what I noticed today when that student, John, was confused about the homework assignment, right? There's your situation and task. You paused, you took a moment, you helped him out. There's the action. And I realized that as he left, he looked much less stressed than when he was there with you initially. You know, he's kind of like wiping his forehead and gripping his hands really tightly. And he seemed much more confident in what he was asked to do in that assignment. So there's the result, right? So that impactful, more specific framing really drives that success feedback and help someone cement that behavior. So success feedback, when I talk about it, is the place where you see a good behavior and you want to reinforce it. You could do that leading up, right? When your leader does something that resonates well with you, there's nothing wrong with you saying, hey, you know what I really appreciate, Kevin? Today you took a moment to stop by my desk and check in with me outside of our regular one-on-ones. And it really meant a lot because you didn't have to do that, but you did. And if, as an individual, that means a lot to you, if that fuels your appreciation and your connection to the team, to your role, don't hesitate to share that, because leaders need to know that what they're doing works or doesn't work just as much as, as leaders, we want our teams to know what's working and what's not. So there's a way to then use that up, down, and sideways. You can use it with peers, you could use it with your direct reports, right? So where do the questions come in? Because you're going, wait a minute, he hasn't asked me questions here. Well, that's in the next piece, and that's in guidance feedback. And guidance feedback is really where we want to change a behavior. We're going to use the same model, the situation task. We're going to look at the first action and result, and then we're going to pause. Because rather than just saying, hey, dummy, you got to learn to communicate better with students. Is that going to help any of you? Have you had leaders who have come to you that way? Like, what the hell are you doing? Anyone had that kind of approach? I'm seeing some nods. I'm seeing thankfully no. Okay, good. Yeah. But sometimes we get that, the command and control leader who just like doesn't realize the impact of what they're doing, right? So what we want to do is want to move away from that and say, okay, here's some specificity, right? So even more, when John, we're going to go back to John, the student here, had a concern about that assignment, you told him to just figure it out and brushed him off. And it looked like he left even more, confused and angry and frustrated than before. Now, here's where the questions come in. You don't want to solve the problem for them. You want to pause, and you're going to ask open-ended questions. Now, that seems easy, right? How many of you feel like you're comfortable with open-ended questions? Give me a thumbs up or a yes or something if you think like open-ended questions, not a problem. No issues, all good. Yep, awesome. But they're more difficult than we think, right? So those open-ended questions need to be digging in. So ask them. Yeah, there you go. Kevin, I used to work in sales. Yep, you keep them going, right? Keep them moving with you. So what might you have done that would make John feel validated or heard? What could that potential outcome have been, right? Exactly, Suzanne. Like that. That's where the pause comes in. What could have happened instead, right? What other options might you use in the future? How could this have turned out differently, right? How do you think that student's going to approach you any more with questions? And if so, why do you think they would or would not, that kind of thing. So that's, again, a place for use of questions, and where open-ended questions are key because it digs in. It prevents just the singular answer. And I'm going to give you an example. So someone's going to respond to this question for me, right? Now I just realized I can't ask this question because, wow, pandemic. I was going to ask, how did you get to work today? Most of us are working remotely. Okay, so someone who maybe actually left their home to go to the work site today. Answer for me. How'd you get to work today? Anyone? Someone.
I'll share. Well, yesterday, this is Kayvon. Well, yesterday I
Yeah.
jumped in my car, hopped on the 80, heading southbound and exited University. So by
Perfect.
method of transportation.
Perfect. I love that. Because if you look in the chat, we had some people who's like walked, drove, right? So you may think, hey, I'm asking an open-ended question. Okay, but you went into the details, but it's also something that's closed-ended because it's able to be answered in a singular fashion. But if I said, hey, what was the route you took today to get to work? Okay, there's more detail, there's more info in that, right? So that's one thing you have to practice very actively. And unfortunately, I have an activity I like to do with folks when we're in person, a little Nerf ball, we all get in a circle, I throw a Nerf ball to you, I say, Maria, ask an open-ended question of me. So Maria Soto, I just saw you, you nodded, and I'm like, ask me an open-ended question. And then I'm not gonna make you do it though, so you're off the hook. But if your question wasn't open-ended, guess what happens with that ball? It gets thrown back to you because you throw it back, right? And it happens. We don't realize that oftentimes we're asking closed-ended questions that don't dig in, that don't give a lot of information. And so it's really important to practice that and to be prepared for those open-ended questions. So what questions do you have of me with regards to these models, the guidance and the success feedback models and the use of questions? Because we're rounding the home stretch, and I want to make sure you're feeling like you got what you needed here. So any questions about this, the guidance or success feedback models?
I have a question. In regards to, let's say, achieve together check-ins or reviews, how do you get your supervisor, and this will work two ways, how do you get your supervisor to be genuinely interested in the review process, where it's not just a check, checking off one of their to-do lists? And so,
yeah, go ahead, sorry.
And also as a supervisor, this works two ways, or manager, how would you, what trainings could they take to get the staff to be more motivated to perhaps look for growth within the organization?
Yeah, so let's see, I'm like looking at our clock here. So I'm going to give you a quick answer, and then I'm going to say we can circle back and talk about this offline. I have no problem with that. Just because I could probably sit here and soapbox for about another hour or so, and I'm sure Angela would be happy to chime in as well. So what I would say is, first thing you want to do if you're the individual trying to get the check-ins to seem more substantial and less checking the box is be clear about that feeling, but I'm going to give you a caveat, but don't be accusational. So again, in that judgment piece, right, you're going to say, okay, you're going to use the questions. So I'm curious, is there something we could do maybe more regularly in the year so we could have check-ins, so then when we get to the 3 times a year where we're doing the Achieve Together, we're kind of having more data, more things to refer to. There's more context to the conversations we're having, because as an individual, again, turning on yourself, as an individual, I'd like to have maybe more guidance. It helps me know that I'm on track, or whatever it is that you're looking for in that conversation to be more impactful for you, because you know what that is, right? So, and here's where I'm going to go with that. Oftentimes we tell people like, hey, use the golden rule. What's the golden rule? Anyone know what the golden rule is? Right? Do unto others as you would have done to yourself. And that's good. That's a nice start. But where we really should be focusing is on the platinum rule, right? And that's do unto others as they would have done to themselves. So that's where that empathetic leader comes in. So you have to be open and honest about, hey, for me, this would be more impactful. This would help me achieve more. This would help me understand what your expectations are more, right? Those kinds of things. So this is what I am hoping to get out of it. And can you meet me, with that? Now, you may have some leaders who can't get there, right? Because for them, the administrative part of leading and managing is too hard to connect with. Sometimes that happens. So to get to your point about questions or to courses and training and such, one of the things I would do is you could, there are a number of like small quick win books out there. So the 5 languages of workplace appreciation helps people understand that every one of us needs and has different needs for appreciation or communication in different ways. That's a quick win there. And then Angela, I'm going to look to you for specifics that you have, through your team, and we can share that out, to folks afterwards. Because I can only speak to the things we have like on our LMS and the courses that we have. So I don't want to speak to things that aren't in existence for the rest of you, because I know we're at different, different campuses and locations. But I'm happy to circle back and discuss that more. Does that help?
Thanks, Kevin. Yes, you hit the nail on the head. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So, like I said, rounding the home stretch here. I hesitate to do this, but I'm really going to blow your mind right now. So how many of you are familiar with the movie The Karate Kid? And I'm talking about the original, not the remake, the Ralph Macchio, Mr. Miyagi Karate Kid. Thumbs up, yeses. Yes, okay. Oh, got lots of thumbs up, okay. So I need someone to be brave. Someone to be brave. I want you to give me a back of the DVD surfing on, Xfinity description of Karate Kid. What's Karate Kid about? Someone raise their hand, and I will call on you to be brave. See, I told you I asked you all questions too. All right, Kahu, go ahead. I see a yes there. So, you want to take a stab at it? No. Just need one brave soul.
Hello?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I would say it's a 2-part story. One, it's about a kid with a rough background who learns to find himself through self-discipline in day-to-day activities that impact him, and also about an old guy who is imparting wisdom to him, and in the best way he knows how, which is just living a day-to-day life.
And you know what? So I can't tell your first name because it's just got your email.
Walter.
Walter, thank you so much, Walter. And you know what? That was beautiful. It was articulate. And I think a lot of people would agree with you. I think you might have saw a different movie. Everyone ready? Okay.
The Karate Kid is the story of Daniel, a violent sociopath who moves to a California town and begins tormenting a local boy and his friends. Johnny is a high school senior with a commitment to atone for past mistakes and move his life forward in a positive direction.
So, ex-degenerate, man. 8 a.m. tomorrow, I'm a senior. I've got 1 year to make it all work. And that's what I'm gonna do, make it work.
They are destined to meet when Daniel's neighbor invites him to a beach party, where he becomes instantly obsessed with Johnny's newly ex-girlfriend, Allie.
And I.
After a courtship ritual consisting solely of creepy, unbroken eye contact, he approaches her, only to be summarily rebuffed. Johnny arrives to patch things up with Allie, but the discussion becomes heated.
Well, I want to talk to you, all right?
Now, I want to be clear about this. What Johnny is doing is not okay, and he should respect her wish to be left alone. Johnny is, in the end, a flawed hero. But one thing he is definitely not doing is getting violent. Daniel, however, seeing an opportunity to insert himself into Allie's life, chooses to escalate the situation, demanding the return of Allie's radio. Frustrated and heartbroken, Johnny complies with Daniel's request, and in the heat of the moment, pushes him down. Daniel now has the radio, and Allie is still in no danger. Nevertheless, he attacks Johnny, who merely steps aside, allowing Daniel to knock himself to the ground twice.
I didn't do anything!
But when Daniel refuses to let it go, Johnny must use force to end this violent outburst, for the safety of everyone present. So what is Daniel's response to Johnny's non-aggression? Pow! A sucker punch right to the mouth. Johnny defends himself, as is his legal right, and then de-escalates the situation by leaving the scene entirely. The next day in school, Daniel trips while playing sport ball. Rather than accepting that occasional bumps and bruises will happen during playtime, Daniel instead externalizes the blame onto Johnny's friend Bobby and proceeds to ground and pound him, MMA style. A few days later, Daniel attempts to enroll at a karate school, obviously intending to up his game so he can get revenge on Johnny. Put it this way, how would you feel if someone picked a fight with you, lost, and then went out the next day and bought a gun? Well, that's exactly how Johnny feels when Daniel shows up at Cobra Kai, so he decides to send a message. Your violence will not be tolerated, because Johnny knows what can happen when you teach karate to a person with a bad attitude. Months go by and no one bothers anyone. Clearly this conflict is over. Until Daniel, unprovoked and for absolutely no reason, drenches Johnny with water in the middle of a school function, ruining his night. To add irony to injury, Johnny was at that very moment sparking up a J, which is just about the least violent thing you can do.
A weasel snagged the bee. All right.
But I digress. Daniel has crossed the line this time and he knows it. After causing a multi-car collision, he flees into the night. There is no telling what further damage this unbalanced and violent individual will do, and once again, it falls on Johnny to contain Daniel's fury. After local busybody, karate master, and child batterer Mr. Miyagi intervenes, Daniel convinces him that this is somehow all Johnny's fault. So they go to Johnny's sacred place, the Cobra Kai studio, and challenge him to yet another fight. Johnny accepts the challenge and even agrees to refrain from defending himself against any more of Daniel's unprovoked aggression until the match.
No one touches the prima donna until the tournament.
Daniel, of course, sees this as a license to continue to harass Johnny in public with impunity.
All right, watch this. Hey guys, how you doing? It's good to see you. Hey, sorry about the eye there, Johnny. Shoulder okay, Tommy? You guys be careful not to go stepping in front of any more buses now, all right?
The day of the tournament arrives. Johnny is there, defending his title. Daniel, meanwhile, is a danger to himself and others as he doesn't even know the basic rules of engagement.
All right, what are the rules here?
Don't know.
To no one's surprise, Johnny advances to the final round, and karma catches up with Daniel when his leg is injured by the boy he wantonly attacked on the soccer field. However, just as Johnny is about to be awarded his trophy, Daniel is granted unnatural strength by the demon sorcerer Miyagi, enabling him to defeat Johnny and win the tournament in an upset. Ever mindful of good sportsmanship, Johnny lets go of his sadness at losing, subjugates his ego, and personally presents Daniel with his tainted blood trophy.
All right. So, I think we might have seen a different movie. Right? Yeah, exactly. This is how Johnny remembers the movie. Kimberly, I love your message there. Oh no, I could never watch this the same way, right? So the reason I put this out there for you is it's comical, it's funny, but the reality of it is we're all shaped by our own perspectives, right? And if we sink into that judgmental mindset like we talked about before, we're going to miss out on a number of things that are really impactful about being curious, right? Just the act of, yeah, exactly. They do. Cobra Kai, the new show, does talk about that. So thank you, Cassandra. But just the act of asking can provide some comfort, right? We get a little bit of comfort in that, whether we're asking, of someone, for someone, right, in consideration for or in prayer over, whatever it may be, like to see if someone is in need or concern. There's power, there's connection, there's support, awareness, information, all these things within that. And some may debate the source or the impact or method, but you cannot deny the power of questions and data and awareness, right? And as many people say, if you don't ask, you'll never know. And one of the things we've also seen is that through questioning, through asking and being inquisitive, why did they get it right? Because you can have greater curious people are happier, right? Research has shown that it boosts your survival, your health, right? It expands our empathy. It leads to more growth, academic success, right? All of these things, right? That the Tucker Carlson cut. That was great, Walter. But it's the truth. Like asking those questions, being curious can really help, right? It strengthens relationships. You get better depth. One study actually just asked strangers to pose and answer personal questions, right? It's called reciprocal self-disclosure, and they found that people, were rated as warmer or more attractive if they showed real honest curiosity about the other person they're talking to. So that's really what I wanted to talk about today, right? Because if you think that you know everything and you go out there, you're likely to fail, right? So that enlightened trial and error succeeds over the planning of the lone genius. That's a great quote. I love it. I think it's ultimately true. And if we're not asking, if we're not curious, we're going to trip and fall. So really, that's what I wanted to leave you with. And hopefully today, as we've discussed, you've kind of gone from here to there, right? We had a little bit of ideas stimulated. We've moved along. And I'm not saying you have small brains like Homer, but, at least I've stimulated something, hopefully. That's what I'm hoping for. So I'm now at the point where I have 2 minutes to give you questions. And then if you have a minute, I'd share one last thing with you, but I want to open it up to questions. Any additional questions out there? None? No hands up? Angela, you seeing any?
Not seeing any.
Okay, well, since we have time, here's my action step for you, because you're probably going, well, how do I do this? What do I do? Okay, start simply. Where can you start? Any of you know who Simon Sinek is? I'm going to give you a 1 minute and 12-second primer. This is what you can do.
So I wanted to prove that all marketing was the same thing. No matter what you were selling, it was always the same thing, right? And good marketing talked about the buyer, and bad marketing talked about the seller. Make sense? I versus you, right? So to illustrate my point, I wanted to prove that what the homeless do and what Microsoft does is the same thing. So if you think about what the homeless do, there is advertising. They sit there with a little sign that says, I'm homeless, I'm hungry, I got 6 kids, I'm a veteran, like whatever, trying to appeal to everybody. That's called a little billboard, right? Microsoft has a billboard that says more memory, bigger screen, all the rest of it, right? More RAM, more ROM, right? And what the homeless are selling is goodwill. So if you walk past a homeless person and you put money in their cup, you feel good. If you give them nothing, you either feel nothing or feel bad. You paid for that feeling. There's an exchange of consideration. I sold you goodwill, you paid for it, you got it, right? They're selling goodwill, that's what they're doing. They're selling the feeling of goodwill. So I found a homeless person who was willing to help me, and her sign was pretty typical, and I found out that she makes between $20 and $30 a day selling goodwill, and she works an 8 to 10 hour day, right? $30 is considered a good day, right? Selling goodwill. And like I said, her sign was pretty typical. So I asked her if I could change her sign, and we did. And the sign that I gave her, she made $40 in 2 hours. The sign that I gave her said, if you only give once a month, please think of me next time. It wasn't about the seller, it was about the giver. What are the reasons people say they don't give? How do I know that they're genuine? I can't give to everyone. So I simply answered the questions. If you only give once a month, please think of me next time. I know you can't give to everybody, I'm legit. That's all, right? Now here's the point I was going to make. She could have made $150 that day, but after she made her $40 in 2 hours, she left. Because one of the reasons she's homeless, or we could surmise that one of the reasons she's homeless is she's decided that she needs $20 or $30 to live per day. So once she had it, she moved on. That's a narrative. That's a narrative, right? So she'll stay there because she didn't sit longer. That's a narrative. So there's a wonderful little trick you can use with your narrative, right? Just add the word yet at the end, okay? I'm not famous yet. I'm not that talented yet. I'm so bad, I'm not good at auditions. Like, I need to get better at, like I suck at auditions for now, right? You can just add a couple of words of hope or opportunity or the potential for future or some sort of infinite component that will profoundly change your narrative.
So that's what I wanted to leave you with. Start small, just try, right? I could try this, I'll get there. I can use this, curious approach and see where it goes. All right. Thank you all so much. Angela, I'm going to hand it back to you. I know you dropped the